Do you have occupants living inside your inherited property? This is a video you don't want to miss. Hey everyone, my name is Carolyn Castillo with Probate Property Angels, where we believe that your inheritance is a blessing and not a burden. When you inherit a property and you have tenants and occupants living inside the property, this can cause significant delays and be quite challenging with some scenarios. Occupants that you can inherit, such as squatters, tenants, roommates, boyfriends, girlfriends, caregivers, these people have a hard time transitioning out of the property. Today's video, I'm going to show you the solutions and how to get through this situation. Let's go ahead and dive in. So before we go into the solution of this problem, we're going to break down what exactly is happening in this special dynamic of inherited properties. So commonly in my practice, I talk about the inherited property with people living inside of it as the people that get left behind. Now these people can be all types of people, such as caregivers, roommates, girlfriends, boyfriends, non-beneficiaries, and beneficiaries. It's important to think about what they're going through during this time. When you're living with the deceased person, it's a different type of grief and loss that you are experiencing. When we're living with someone every single day, they are such a huge part of our life, and now that person is no longer there. So this person is living in this home, and it can be a different level of grief that maybe somebody living outside of the property isn't quite familiar with or is not experiencing the same level of grief that they're experiencing. So it's something very important to consider when you're dealing with this issue. The second thing I'd like to bring to light is the challenges that this person has in transitioning out of the property. Now, from my experience, what I've seen is a lot of times people that are living in the home with the deceased, primarily they are not the breadwinners of the home. So it may be a caregiver or somebody that's living with the deceased person, and they were paying the bills and they were paying the utilities and they were overall financially maintaining the property. Now, sometimes if it's a beneficiary of the estate, which means that they are also part of the estate, they're living in the home and they're also part of the estate. Now, those people will typically be more motivated and more willing to work with you. Either one, they're going to be buying out the other heirs so that they can continue living in the home, or they're cooperating with the heirs that are outside of the home and getting the house prepared for sale and helping you sell the property. Now, where we run into most of the issues are people that are non-beneficiaries. So this can be people that, again, are caregivers or girlfriend, boyfriend, roommates, tenants, things like that. Now, something that comes into this dynamic is that these people are not well equipped on how to transition out of the property. So that means now that they're going to need to rent an apartment or rent another house, they're going to need first, last security. They're going to have to do a credit check. They're going to have their job qualifications. They're going to have to go out to the marketplace and to acquire a place to live. This can be extremely overwhelming for somebody that's never had to really fend for themselves or have to go out there in the world and find their own property. Now, at Probate Property Angels, when we work with families, we do help the families that are in the houses that are going to be sold and help them find apartments, help them walk through that whole process, because it can be quite a challenge. Now, the other challenge that the people that are left behind are dealing with a lot of times is the relationship with the beneficiaries. So if it's a boyfriend or a girlfriend, I've seen it more times than I care to mention, where dad got married later in life or not married because they were just boyfriend and girlfriend, and the kids don't like the girlfriend. They don't have good communication between the girlfriend and the person living inside the home. And so that dynamic makes it extra complicated because they don't have a good relationship to begin with. And now maybe that girlfriend or that boyfriend that's living in the house, they have some sort of entitlement that they believe that they should have a right to the house and that they're living in the house and that's their house. And sometimes it can become quite a conflict for the family on how to get that person to move out of the house and so that the family can move forward with selling the property. Now, I also see it with siblings or with the beneficiaries. So sometimes one sibling is living in the home, one sibling is living outside of the home, and that sibling says, oh, well, you gotta move out of the house. And they're like, well, you're not gonna tell me what to do, right? So you've got that brother and sister kind of rivalry going on, because it's very interesting when you're working with probate and when you're working in an inheritance. Sometimes you'll have families that haven't spoken in years, and now all of a sudden you've got to come together and you're basically got to do a real estate deal together. It can be very, very, very challenging. Another topic that we have to bring up is how long we should give them to move out. Okay, so a lot of times what I see is families at the beginning are very sentimental naturally, and they're like, don't worry, take your time, everything's very emotional, everything's very raw. And then what ends up starting to happen is 1 month goes by, 2 months go by, 3 months go by, 4 months go by, 5 months go by, and they've made no progress on getting out. And why have they not made the progress? Is because it's challenging for them to start to go out and fend for themselves, and maybe they feel entitled that they should be able to stay in that house even though they're not part of the inheritance, or even if they are part of the inheritance, they don't want to move out. Now, I have a lot of experience in this arena, and it's very dynamic scenario that we work with families. And if you're in this situation, if you're hearing what I'm saying, you're saying, oh my goodness, that's exactly what's happening in my estate, I would love to offer you a free phone consultation to speak with me directly about your family specific situation, and we can share tips and guidance on the best way to navigate it. Now, my solution to resolving these problems is, number one, is to handle things civilly. Okay, I believe in the power of third-party communication. So when a person like myself gets involved, I am the in-between between the beneficiaries and the person living inside the house. I have no emotional anything with the beneficiary or the person living inside the house. I am a neutral party that is here to help both of these parties come together and move forward. I'm very successful at working with families in this way and just kind of helping the person that's living inside of the house understand what's happening and understand that whether they like it or they don't like it, this is just how things have to move forward. And so we can help them locate another property, help them get the resources that they need. Sometimes these people don't have money to move out, right? So we really need to get down on their level and really understand what they're going through to try to help them transition out. We have a lot of good success in working with families in this way, where sometimes brothers and sisters don't get along, and we can come in as that third party, and then we can just be a neutral space that we can hear both sides and help both of them come together. Now, the second thing that we do is we establish a timeline. This is so crucial when it comes to inherited properties, because like I mentioned, is if you give the people the time to do it, there's never a good time to move out. There's never like, oh, I have nothing to do, let me move out, right? Moving costs money, moving is stressful, moving is never convenient. So there needs to be a timeline established. So when we list properties for sale and we work with families of inherited properties, we're always establish a timeline of when everything is going to start happening. So once we figured out how they're going to physically move out of the property, then we go ahead and start setting up some timelines. Well, on this date, we're going to have the property cleaned. On this date, we're going to have the pictures done. On this date, we're going on the market, right? And by developing a timeline, it pushes people to take the necessary steps that they need to take to make arrangements for themselves. If there's no timeline established, Let me tell you guys, nobody is moving fast from a free house to live. So establishing those timelines will really help the family to move forward. And the third and final option is reserved for when people are not cooperating. So this does happen in probate. Because of the natural situation, it is difficult. And so there is a legal action called an unlawful detainer action. And what an unlawful detainer action does is it gives the heirs of the estate the opportunity to petition the judge to show the judge that you have now inherited this property. A lot of times there is no lease, so it's not like a typical eviction that you may think about as what people think about removing someone from a home through a legal eviction. So there is no lease in place, there's no monies due, there's no monthly rent due. So it's not like you're going to do an eviction and say, oh, you haven't paid rent in the last 3 months, right? So the court proceeding that we have to use is called an unlawful detainer action. And what this action will do is allow your case to go before the judge, and they will serve the person that's living in the house so that they have an opportunity to speak to the judge themselves as well. So if they don't believe it from a third party like myself, or they're not listening to the executors or the heirs of the estate, then they get the opportunity to speak with the judge directly. When they speak with the judge is going to ask them, are you a beneficiary of this estate? No, you're not, right? Well, the probate has been enacted and they have the authorization to sell the property. You are not the owner of the property, nor are you an heir of the property. So here on this court, you are immediately ordered to vacate the property. They will go ahead and sign the order to have those people removed. That document will be sent to the sheriff's office in the county where you're filing probate, and the sheriff will actually go to the property and physically remove them from the home. Like I said, I prefer not to get to that level. We're very successful at working with families in the civil way and just making arrangements for them to move forward. But in the case where they don't, we do have the law to stand on that will allow us to get the people removed from the home so that the family can move forward with selling the property in a timely manner. So people living in an inherited property can be a real challenge. I encourage you to visit our website at probatepropertyangels.com. Download our executor guide that has a lot of helpful tips on this subject. And if you're in this situation, book a free call with us so that we can show you how we can help your family.